Hello and welcome to the Wire Talks. I'm Sidharth Bhatia. At one time not long ago, India's left parties ran three state governments and had a collective 59 seats in parliament. Now, altogether, they have only 9 MPs and one state government in Kerala. Why did this happen? India's left has had a great and long tradition of fighting for the rights of the oppressed through popular struggles. And yet, the organized left does not seem to appeal to Indians, especially the young, anymore. What has changed? What can be done to revive the left? In her book, Comrades and Comebacks, The Battle of the Left to Win the Indian Mind, quite an ambitious title, Saira Shah Halim attempts to answer these questions. She speaks of the legacy of the left and looks at the future too. Halim worked in the corporate sector for 17 years and in 2022 stood for the West Bengal Assembly elections as a candidate for the Communist Party of India Marxist. And then in 2024, she was also a CPM candidate or the Alliance candidate in Calcutta. She joined me today to discuss her book and her ideas for the left. Saira Shah Halim, welcome to the Wire Talks.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. It's an honor speaking to you, and I follow your work. And I think while doing a commendable job of keeping democracy alive.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very kind. Your father was an Indian Army general. You
Yeah.
worked in the corporate sector. Not exactly the best background to become a CPM candidate in two elections. How did this happen?
All right. So that's an interesting question. Siddharth, I don't think anyone has asked me this. They just, asked me questions about how I got into politics. So I would say it's incidental. I won't say it's coincidental. I worked in the corporate sector for more than 17 years in training, development, organizations, big MNCs. And then what happened is 2014 happened. And a few years ago, I was campaigning for my husband for the Baliganj assembly seat. And that's when I really got involved in mainstream politics, not as a candidate, however, as someone who is very active during the campaign. And that taught me a great lot about what happens in a constituency. How do you mobilize people? How do you run a successful campaign? And how do you, what should your outreach program should be? So I think more than political science, it was my work on a field as a political campaigner that kind of piqued my interest in politics, national politics. And I was not vying for a seat because, and I know what the CPM stands for. However, 2014 changed all of that. We saw rights being taken away from the politically marginalized, the religious minorities, the Dalits, the underrepresented. And it was happening quite blatantly, on our faces. Earlier, when people say, "Arey, but communalism to tha, bahut pehle se tha," there was always this divide. So I said there might be a divide. The lacune was always there, but it was never palpable. It was never in the air. However, from 2014, you could feel it. You could feel it, and it was palpable. And I felt, why should I keep quiet when lynchings were happening, when this bulldozer politics, when bulldozer was being used as a tool to suppress the poor, the marginalized, and to teach them a lesson or to beat them with a stick with. So I felt I should speak. So I was speaking very candidly on all possible platforms, whether it was on the ground, whether it was on national media, whether it was at a conference, whether it was a literature festival. I was very, very vocal. And that's the time probably CPM noticed my work. So, like I said, I was never vying for it. Whether it was on national media, whether it was at a conference, whether it was a literature festival, I was very, very vocal. And that's the time probably CPM noticed my work. So, like I said, I was never vying for a ticket. And I was not ever even a member of any political outfit when I was approached in 2022. So I got a call from the party elders, seniors, and they said, you have to run. Babul Supriyo is going to be standing from the TMC, and you might not win the election. However, we are confident that you will be a political upset and you might probably make history. So that was told to me, and it might be good for your future. So I stood for the election with a very open mind, for Balikand constituency. The incumbent MLA, Mr. Shubroto Mukherjee, had just passed away. And 2021 election, Balikand Shubroto Mukherjee had won. So within a year, there was this unfortunate demise of the gentleman, and that's why the Balikand bypoll was held again. So overall, I did phenomenally well. Most of the national media covered me. People were cheering me. Like I said, I was a new face who was active politically, but I was not seen as someone who, could be kind of conjoined with a political outfit. Of course, my family relations with the left is there. My father-in-law was a very, very senior left, politician, being the speaker of West Bengal Assembly for 30 years. And even before that, being involved with the SFI and ground movements and everything. So that had given me some kind of, like I would say, homework with what was happening. But I never thought I'll contest the election. So when I contested the election, the vote share of the left was a 5% in 2021. And in 2022, thankfully, me and my comrades, I would not say me because ultimately it's always teamwork. So my comrades and we managed to increase the left vote share from a 5% in 2021 to more than 30% within a year. And that's when people are saying that there's some kind of a ray of hope, because we were fighting against the politics of hatred, against the politics of divisiveness, against the politics of, bigotry, because the person I was contesting against came from a little controversial background. I mean, there were riots in Asansol for, things that he had said and, stuff like that. So that election, really helped me. And then I was very active in the Balikaj area. I've been, life went on and everything. And last year, again, the party approached me. They said that you're the one who's done really well.
So, Saira, you put up a creditable performance. I mean, 5% to 30% was quite something, but were unsuccessful. What are the lessons you learned from both, not in terms of fighting an election only, but also about the issues that matter to the public and for the country?
So what I would say is the ideas of the left are not dead. Organizationally, the left might be weak, but we cannot deny the contribution to, the land reforms, to the peasant movement, and also fighting for the sexual minorities, and also fighting for the religious minorities. As far as the welfare architecture, if you look at decentralization, if you look at labor rights, the left has delivered land reforms. So we cannot deny that the contribution has been there. So the left is not wrong. I would say organizationally, the left has made some colossal mistakes. And for that, perhaps electorally, they haven't done well, not done well in the past couple of years. And that is why, even if you see candidates like me who are trying to fight against the current, it invariably becomes a Herculean task to actually really go ahead and become number one. Though I would say I'm very proud to say that I defeated the BJP and the Congress both in 2022, and with an overwhelming margin. And I'm sorry to say they were the Congress candidate tried to kind of have this smear campaign against me going on and all that. The lesser Muslim, the better Muslim, and the bigger Muslim, and all that nonsense that was going on. So despite all this, when people keep asking how is it and is it very glamorous, or I said it's not for the faint-hearted. Being a woman, and B, whether people like it or not, I am a Muslim candidate. And being thrown into the wolves, it is not easy. Being, coming back home after hard days of campaigning, and to see your name being, what do you call, trolled all over social media, it's not easy for anyone's mental health to see, like your name being put up out there. However, I would say I did not technically lose the election, considering that where the left was at a mere 5% in 2021, to increase it to more than 30% within a year, and to win from two wards, that is 64 and 65. It is not easy, considering that we didn't have enough people to man our booths. And even if people were there, they were driven out by TMC goons, allegedly by TMC goons. And they were threatened. They were, a lot of people were injured because they were guarding my booth. So in times like these, the percentage that I managed to win was not a loss. It was actually a moral victory, considering, the very, very unprecedented, challenging circumstances that I was put through. So I would
But
not
what
call.
but what
Sorry.
did you learn about the 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 situation on the ground? What do people want?
People on the ground, it is very clear the election in India, especially West Bengal, is very different from, say, a New York or any other state. People here, we have the Bharatiya Janata Party who have got electoral bonds. We have the Trinamool Congress, who's right now number two in the, in electoral bonds gains. It is not Congress, it is the Trinamool Congress. So here you are fighting against big capitalism, you're fighting against soft communalism, because you have a political party that is openly, brazenly communal, which is, you know, and then on the other hand, there is another political party that claims to be secular. However, if you look at the statistics in the past 11, 12 years, a lot of doors to RSS camps, BJP camps, and the shakhas have opened up. Like, who's the political party that is giving NOCs to the RSS shakhas, right? So we need to question that. Then secondly, we need to also understand that we are such a poor state where the dole politics that Mamta Banerjee engages in, perhaps it has worked. And I have no pride, and I'm saying it with utmost humility, that perhaps that worked, that has worked. And the minorities of West Bengal, which forms a major uh, base, support base of Mamta Banerjee, they felt that she's the only woman, or TMC is the only political party viable to fight the Bharatiya Janata Party. So there are two things that made, Trinamool Congress and Mamta Banerjee win election after election. It is because they feel that it is the only secular party as of now which is politically competent to fight against the RSS BJP, and the rest of the political parties have lost their relevance. And that is the honest truth, and I'm saying it very, very candidly.
Moving on from electoral politics for the moment, let's come to the book, which you were just saying earlier before the show, before we went into a recording, that you had put it aside. And then after the 2024 election, you picked it up again and worked diligently and finished it. Firstly, how did this idea come? I mean, you are a newbie in the CPM. How did this idea come? And it covers a lot of ground. How did you manage to? It must have been a daunting task to cover it from, the earlier part of the 20th century right up to now. It's very, very current. He even mentions Zohran Mamdani. How did you come to write this book? What was the impetus?
Okay, so thanks, Siddharth, for the question. See, the impetus was that it's a little demoralizing, when the left is facing electoral setbacks and there's no literature available, ready literature, ready reckoner in the mainstream media, because it's all been hogged by the right wing, right? You have these books by Savarkar, and suddenly all these people are being glorified. And I felt that there's this major lacune, and why isn't there something, say, probably at Oxford or at the airport or at literature festivals? Like, people are interested to know about the left, like what made them successful, what is the ideology that they stand for, what does a new left looks like. However, there was no literature on it. If you had to look for literature, the only viable option today is the Leftward Bookstore, which is doing a phenomenal job, but there was nothing else in the mainstream media. There was no discourse in the mainstream media, and that is where the idea stemmed from. And I discussed the idea with my publisher, and my manuscript, like, did not manuscript, the first few chapters, the proposal did get approved. And that's when I went the whole hog, and I started working on the subject. So that took close to 2 years, because I felt that to talk about Indian left, I needed to kind of bring in a perspective about the global left movement, so that the young, or the young at heart, or the curious reader, or a backpacker, or say someone who's working in the corporate sector, should get a perspective about what is the global left about, what were the first stirrings, how did it transcend to the Indian politics, what were the stirrings, what were the moorings, and how did they manage to win these three states, and what does the future look like?
Did you have to get kind of um, either approval or encouragement from the party?
I didn't even tell the party that I'm writing the book, because I was writing as not a political person. So when the book came out, I have presented a book to Comrade Muhammad Salim, the CPM state secretary, and he's very happy. I've already presented the book to the new general secretary of the CPM, Mr. M.A. Baby. Of course, Brinda Karat has a book, and Comrade Brinda Karat, and other left leaders, and they were very happy that I've delved into the subject. But when I was writing the book, I did not. My husband is a die-hard commie, is a die-hard communist. In fact, when I asked him for tips, he said, "No, I want it to be your baby. I want nothing to do with it." So technically, a lot of people think that probably my husband, Dr. Fuad Halim, would have given me inputs here, there. No, he wanted a person who's like a left progressive voice, not a traditional, communist who's like dyed in the wool kind of a thing. So a fresh perspective that would find a resonance with a new generation of readers, new generation of political followers. So that's the reason he did not give me any tips, or did not try to influence what I was writing about. Once a manuscript was over, he said, "Yeah, okay, good job. I think it's a fresh take, and let's go ahead with it."
Yeah, well, you are married into a very, very strong communist family, and as you said, now you are also part of the party. Uh, but does that mean that you felt you had to kind of be a bit diplomatic in saying things?
See, what happens is I didn't want to eulogize the party. The part was like, you have to talk about the failings. And on a recent podcast, people did ask me what happened, what did not happen, or whatever, whatever. So I had to be very open, knowing that probably people from the very, very traditional, left might not like a lot of new ideas. But I felt it's, best if I am authentic about what I am, what I stand for. So I never posed to be a die-hard communist. I said I am a student of politics who is like really eager to learn, and this is my version of what the left looks like and what can transpire in the future. So it was a very, very authentic way of uh, trying to make the left story relevant to curious young minds.
No, so there was a reason why I asked this question, Saira, about whether you had to temper your views a little bit and all that. And of course, you must have had some thoughts about how do you present this. I'll give you an example why I asked. So, when you talk about Jyoti Basu, you say that of course Jyoti Basu, who doesn't know, is stalwart of the CPM, stalwart of the left movement, and an intellectual and a politician. You talk about it, and then you come to that there was this moment when he could have been prime minister, to which he referred to as a historical blunder because it didn't happen. For whatever reason, the party said no at that time, and you leave it in one sentence. Now, according to me, as a reader, rightly or wrongly, that is a momentous occasion of post independence leftist politics,
Yeah, yeah.
which requires serious, in depth. I mean, I would perhaps take a chapter, if not half a chapter or a half a chapter, understanding and explaining what happened, talking to people,
Hmm.
etc. You have one sentence. So I wondered whether, as a member of the CPM, you felt you needed to be skip over those things.
Okay, so that would be in part two because a lot of people are saying, for example, the Somnath Chatterjee controversy, the Jyoti Basu's, the whole, I would say, a debacle. He should have been the prime minister. This is my personal opinion. But I felt there are a lot of people anyway critiquing the left 24/7. It's everyone's favorite whipping boy. So why should I jump onto the bandwagon and become one of them? The idea is for me to give snippets of what the left movement is about, the global and the movement in India. My job is not to kind of decipher what or what did not happen because there have been enough articles and opinion ads, opinion pages, and critiques about what could have or what should have happened. That's primarily the reason. It was not about me shouldering the responsibility of someone who's from the party. It was just something which has already been written and delved into. And perhaps, on that note, I could write about it, in book two.
Or you mean there will be a book too,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
where you will take some of these issues further?
sure, right. Why not?
Okay, well, I can see it's a great diplomatic answer. We'll wait for book two. Now, tell me, since the book, as I see it, says the battle of the left to win the Indian mind. So clearly, what you're trying to say is that battle exists and that battle has to be fought and that perhaps won. Now, in the post-independence period, the left has its highs and lows and was strong in several states. At the national level, it really had a voice. But has it really fulfilled its potential? And shouldn't, in today's day and age, when there is so much going on and there is a party which is dominating with its Hindutva uh, politics, surely this is the time the left needs to have a very, very strong, potent voice. Very, very strong voice which contributes to the national debate, fights the Hindutva elements. That has not happened. Why is that?
Okay, you are right in many ways because we have to understand that there was this growing lot of aspirational people who wanted jobs, who wanted security, who wanted growth, and there was this whole aspirations of people who wanted to wear branded clothes, wear designer clothes, and buy nice cars and all of that. So I feel that the left somehow did not understand the people's aspiration. It offered resistance that, okay, this is my personal view, this is not the party's view. So I felt that that entire moment somehow got lost when in understanding the aspirations of the people, because West Bengal alone cannot stand isolated. When Delhi had changed, Hyderabad had these, big flyovers coming in. Bangalore was the IT hub. People were relocating from Kolkata, then Calcutta, from Calcutta to work in Hyderabad, in Delhi, in Bangalore, and all of that. So why was that happening? Why was there so much of brain drain? So I think people somehow felt demotivated, demoralized that we have to leave our cities for a better job. And Calcutta has nothing to offer. Where are the jobs? Where's the growth? Where are the hotels? Where are the food chains? Where are the multinationals? All of that. And I felt that Buddhadev Bhattacharya, the then CM, he was doing a commendable job in trying to bridge the gap between agricultural reforms as well as understanding the growing aspirations of the urban youth. So somehow that kind of backfired because end of the day, the left has one on the plank of the peasants movement, the agricultural reforms, uh, taking the farmers with you and all of that. So when the Nandigram episode happened, Mamta Banerjee took advantage of that very, very unfortunate moment. And I think she piggy rided on that whole debacle and somehow managed to, win the trust or the popularity vote of the people.
No, that's as far as Bengal politics is concerned. My sense is at the national level also somewhere the left is out of touch. Would you say that?
It's not out of touch. I feel somehow it had become complacent and it has stagnated, considering the kind of policies or the way it was working. I agree mistakes were there because end of the day every political party has to evolve. It cannot be in the 1970s because renewal requires internal changes, right? Leadership rotation, which is not happening, and embracing new social blocks, which somehow I feel did not happen. And when it happened, it was a tad too late because the power had shifted hands. And once the power shifts hands, it's very difficult to put the genie back in the bottle. I think that is what exactly happened.
Uh, you know, actually you've raised a very, very interesting point. I'll just come to it in a minute or two. But one of the things I felt, if you have studied the left movements and left politics of the last, say, I mean, there is electoral politics also and national politics also, rather than only agricultural reforms, is that somewhere along the way, the left parties identified the Congress as the main enemy
Hmm.
and did not did not concentrate on the rising communalism that was visible to all of us. In fact, the CPM uh, joined hands with, not joined hands with, but was equally a partner in one or two governments, BP Singh government being the last one, with the BJP, and as long as it kept the Congress out. So I
Mm,
can see many wrong turns that the party took or the left movements took. And I'll come to the youth aspirations in a minute. That's very interesting point. But you don't touch really upon all that?
See, honestly speaking, the VP Singh, probably I was very, very young. I was, very small to actually pay cognizance to all of that. I talked from what I remember and what I've seen because it's very difficult to encapsulate something that you've seen as a very, very young child and has no idea of what was happening. So I try to do justice with what I know rather than dwelling into a part of history which has been talked about or debated. So, as far as the right wing, no, I don't think the left has ever kind of had any kind of understanding with the right wing, with the Hindutva forces. On the contrary, the left is the only political party that is standing tall, whether it is Brinda Karat showing a Supreme Court notice and tried to stop the bulldozers, in Delhi, when the bulldozers were kind of ravaging the homes of the poor and the shops and all of that, or whether it is stepping out from the nuclear deal. So, as far as morality is concerned, I think the left is the only party that is principally stood against it, whether it was the question of even the left, a left prime minister ruling the country. So, morally, I think the left cannot kind of, I feel they have not made any mistake. They've been organizationally, there've been deficits, which I agree. There have been some strategic decisions that went wrong, but morally I would say that they've never ever walked with the BJP or had any kind of understanding with the BJP. There are people who have left political parties, but that does not mean that that the left was ever with the Bharatiya Janata Party. In fact, today I would say the right wing has risen to power because a lot of times Congress has been unable to stop the tide of the right wing Hindutva forces. Why are they soft? Soft. All these guys that we see ruling, they could have been behind bars if the Congress had the moral courage to take them on. Today we have people like Omar Khalid, okay, all these guys who fought against a very, very divisive draconian NRCCA, and they are in jail without a trial. It's been 5 years. There's been loss of youth, there's been loss of time, but people might say, but it is not their job. They're not in power. No, as an opposition, if you have the moral will and the compass to take the authorities to task for something that is so undemocratic and criminal, to put these people behind bars for any rhyme or reason, they could have done that. However, that's not happened, and I feel very disheartened and sorry to see that these young bright minds are still rotting in jail.
Again, this links up with what you just said, and it links up with what you said a little earlier. There are, young Indians, I find, especially in urban areas, but also elsewhere, are generally showing a progressive side to them. And yet, this progressive element of young Indians is the organized left, and I mean left parties, is the do the organized left parties have it in them to suck up these young Indians and say, come with us and we can do something? Or the young Indians, young progressive Indians, have nowhere to go and they are doing it on their own? Is there a mismatch? And second, have the left parties risen to modern times to say, this we will be the party of the young voice and allow new blood to come into our system?
So I think we need to kind of, leave the old, not leave the old bastions, take the old bastions along with us and form new constituencies. The moot question is, does left has the bandwidth to take these new people? So I would say, let's look at the gig workers. Let's look at the student network. Let's look at the women collectives. Let's look at the climate change movements. Let's look at cooperative digital commerce. Let's look at all these things that comprise of the new left, not just the traditional red bastions. If left has the the moral uh, standing and the intelligence, they would get these people along. And that is what I've written about in my book when I mention people like Greta Thunberg and Zohran Mamdani, which is again the global left. But India also needs, I think, Zohran Mamdani. India badly needs a Zohran Mamdani to take up the right wing. I mean, this guy is unfazed. He is taking on Donald Trump. He's taking on these right wing oligarchs. He's taking on these big capitalists. And he is winning because people are liking these new ideas, which are a far cry from the traditional modes of what the old communists stood for. And I'm not saying they were wrong. They were pretty much right in their own ways. However, like I said, with time, You need to get back to the grassroots. You need to get back to mobilization, something that left has been very stellar with. That is grassroots movement. That is the peasants movement, getting the farmers mobilized, getting the students mobilized. Uh, Earlier, ABVP didn't even have any footings in, in these colleges, but we see that ABVP couple of years has kind of found some kind of support. So I want the left back to where it belongs. That means the students' movement, the Adivasi movement, getting the farmers mobilized, getting all these student networks, women's collective, climate change activists, all these mobilized. Then I think it is a battle of the ideas. It's about winning the minds of new age voters, and I feel it can do that. It's just a matter of time. It is very, very possible that they are armed to do that.
No, all that is good in theory, but does the current power structure within the left, is it capable to bring these people along and say, we represent you, you can join us? Or has that thinking not happened? And why is it not happened if that's the case?
I think it has the capability. The fact is that the old guard is stepping away from electoral politics. If you look at the last election or the assembly election, it had championed a lot of young new faces who did not have any electoral, what you call experience before. The fact is that these faces and these voices resonated with the public. That itself shows that the left is reviving itself. It is looking inwards and trying to see that where it can find some kind of resonance with a whole new population. And I feel they're on the right track. It's a matter of time, considering that electorally we are seeing kind of a duopoly between the Bharatiya Janata Party and the TMC. And I feel that if the left wins a couple of seats, TMC will be out of power within no time, and so will the BJP, because morally the left is the only ideology right now, forget the political arm, ideology right now that can give the right wing of the country a run for its money. Because ideology, I think, fights ideology. You cannot fight the uh, far right with a new liberal view of things and a soft Hindutva plank and say, okay, you are celebrating this festival, we will throw a bigger festival and we will try and compete with the BJP because we want to garner Hindutva vote bank. It doesn't work like that. So I think left should go. They should address or peddle soft communalism, and I'm glad that communalism and religion never plays a part in electoral campaigns. It's always about the people's movement. It's always about the gig workers. It's always about the workers' movement. So I think it needs to go back and capitalize on the support base, which has been the workers, the workers, the tillers of the land, the farmers, the politically marginalized, and the religious minorities.
No, all that existed very much so for the last 11 years. All of it has existed. And the soft Hindutva by the opposition has also existed for the past 11 years. The gig workers have been around for the past 11 years. The young progressives have been around. The farmers have been around. But yet, I mean, you are saying give it time and it will happen. I don't see any movement anywhere.
See, the right has played with the narrative and it has won the narrative of emotions. So I think if left plays its cards and gets the narrative right, like in my book I've written, it's a battle of winning the Indian mind. It's once it wins the battle, whether it is at these circles, however cliquish it might be, okay, at the city level and at the rural level, then I think it translates into work. But the left also needs to stop being complacent and, make a better outreach program to reach out to young first time voters who have never voted in the past and who are dismayed by the politics of both the BJP and the Trinamool Congress. So I think left has a wonderful opportunity out there, which it can capitalize.
You mentioned India needs a Zohran Mamdani. Can you just quickly, in a couple of minutes, elaborate what you meant?
See, now Zohran Mamdani is a social democrat. That's what he says that he is. Though the right wing in the US has called him, you are like a communist, as if it's like some kind of, slang or abuse, or some kind of, something to be demeaned about. Even if he is, I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, here you need to be a radical to fight the radicals. No, radical doesn't mean the old world of, like using some kind of, arms or something to fight a revolution. You need to be radical in your approach. And I think Zoran Mamdani is pretty radical that way. So I think the left is the only radical body left in India that can actually fight the right wing, because I feel the soft Congress has gone too soft. It is imitating what BJP does by trying to mobilize the majoritarian vote bank. So I feel it's important for left to stand for what it has always stood for. That is being a radical political outfit that does not does not engage in communal politics, or there is no communal talk of any way, but going back to the roots, going back to the people, going back to the students, going back to the peasants, the farmers, and all of that, and just kind of broaden the umbrella. I think the talk should be about broadening the umbrella instead of just the class, fighting the class. So because I feel when you're talking about the big capitalists, yeah, it is against the big capitalists, but the enemy is not just these guys. You need to win these guys and tell them that socialism will continue. There's no way India is going to be an all out capitalist country. But along with socialism, we are open to entrepreneurship. I think once that clarity is there, that we are not against industries, we are not against growth, we want growth for everybody. The problem is when only 1% of the capitalists own the capital. The idea is, some kind of a equitable distribution of wealth, and not about just these 1% of people holding on to the maximum number of wealth. That is the idea.
So, are you hopeful? And now, don't give me the party line.
There's
You are an
not a
author. No,
single
one
party
second.
line in my
You are
entire
an
conversation with you.
you are an author. That means you have sufficient detachment, and you have ideas. But are you hopeful that the currents, and don't talk only about Bengal or don't talk only about CPM, just the left thought, are you hopeful that this will, in the next few years, the left ideology, as you have been consistently saying, will emerge and captivate the young of today and tomorrow?
As we talk today, Zoran Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York, and he's a very staunch leftist, self-proclaimed social democrat. He has been able to win the imagination of a young generation of Americans who believe in equity, democracy, as well as principled way of functioning, a good governance, that is. So I don't think that it's a very far-stretched thought if another young left politician kind of capsulates that imagination of Indians. And I hope that change comes very, very soon.
But you do know that he used a lot of social media, which the young look at, like TikTok and other things. You know that his cultural references. So, for
Very
that,
popular.
yeah, very popular culture, etc. You do know that he is using Hindi film songs, other film song, other songs. For that young person to emerge here, the system behind him, the kind of power structures behind him, the party will have to adjust itself to these new realities. It
Of
cannot
course.
talk to the young urban person, whether in Kolkata or anywhere else, in the same tone. It has to talk to
100%.
in their language. Am I right?
100%. I
Right.
totally agree with you, and that's I don't know whether you followed some of the reels of the previous contestants in the Lok Sabha last year. I was using reels majorly, and I tried to make my campaign very popular. It was, I think, my teams and my idea. I had people making reels for me every day, and I think if you just look at some of my reels, it was a fantastic campaign, very colorful, very vibrant, and the party is all up for it. And that is why the traditional people who've not been communists before, people who have worked in corporate booths for years, that is the reason the names get nominated, because the threadbare needs to be there. Your principles, your morality, your ideals need to be left, whether you're traditional communist or not. I think today the left has kind of broadened its umbrella, and people like me are welcome to that change that left so badly wants to see.
So there'll be more Saira Shah Halims entering
Yeah,
the
yeah,
left.
hope so, and hopefully we'll be winning also. Not
Yeah.
just that our boots getting rigged, but hopefully we'll be strong enough to fight the bullies who are actually capturing our boots at the elections.
Good. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Saira.
so much, Rab. It's a wonderful conversation.
You've stood your ground very, very this. I was trying to provoke you, of course,
No, no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
but
Thank you so much.
I really, really thought that your book was needed. As you pointed out, there's a lot of right literature on the book stands, and this kind of thing needs to get out. Please, all the best for its success, and thank you very much for joining
Thank
us.
you so much, Siddharth. It's a pleasure being in conversation with you. Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead. Thank
Yeah. That was Saira Shah Halim, who's an ex-corporate uh, person who is now with the CPM and stood for 2 elections, giving her ideas in a book and elsewhere with me, discussing her ideas about why and how the left should revive. And I think she sounds very, very hopeful that the left will revive in India. Thank you very much. And we shall be back next week with another guest on the Wire Talks. Till then, from me, Sidharth Bhatia, goodbye.